I recently made a video where I talked about what old features should be brought back, and many viewers really enjoyed it. So to stay on the topic of old Nitro Type features, today I'll be talking about a handful of Nitro Type features that most people have forgotten about. I'm sure if you've been on the site long enough, you'll probably remember a handful of these, so let me know in the comments how many of these you got to experience yourself. This feature has always been a little bit mysterious, and I'm not even sure whether or not it's been completely removed. I'm talking about ghost racers, or old inactive accounts that Nitro Type turns into bots to populate the racetracks. Essentially, if they found an account that hadn't been raced on in a really long time, they would use it as a bot to populate the racetracks with accounts that looked like real people. I'm not entirely sure what would happen if the person who owned the account decided to log in one day, but I imagine all the races that were done on the account by the site would be forgotten and the race count would start off at whatever it was before the person last logged off. If any Nitro Type admin is watching this, I'd be curious to know about ghost racers and how they actually work, because all the information I've gotten about them comes from people who've been on the game for longer than I have and just happen to know about them. Next thing that used to exist, but most people have forgotten about, is 200 member teams. While modern teams are limited to 50 racers, back in the first years of Nitro Type, teams could have up to 200 people on them. The removal of 200 member teams was announced on August 25th, 2014, where it was mentioned in a news post. Seasons weren't a thing yet, so it's not like there was a huge season competition that these large teams could benefit from, but I think it would be cool to have several hundred people on a team again. In late 2019, there were rumors that Nitro Type was going to release 300 player teams to make the competitive scene more interesting, but this never came to fruition. I guess it would have been bad if all the active grinders joined one team and just dominated the leaderboard for years, which is probably why this feature was never re-released. The next thing is a bit interesting and many people don't know about it, but back in the day, Nitro Type made a news post in which they announced that Nitro Type had a mascot. This was a real-life dog named Nitro. It's a golden retriever. I'll link the news post in the description. I'll show a picture in the video too. There were a few achievements linked to a mini event that ran in his honor from January 3rd to January 10th of 2017. The achievements were Nitro Pup, which was a title for doing 20 races in a session during the event, Nitro Dog, which was another title for doing 100 races in a session during the event, and finally Top Dog for doing 150 races in a session during the event. The next thing I'd like to talk about actually encompasses several features that used to not exist. That's right, instead of talking about an old feature that most people have forgotten about, I'd like to mention a few fundamental features to the site now that used to not exist. The features that used to not exist included Nitro Type Gold membership, which was first announced on June 21st, 2013. That definitely would make the site a lot different than it is today, considering the amount of things that you can only do with Nitro Type Gold. Painting cars, which was released on January 30th, 2012, and now, of course, you don't even have to pay money to paint cars. You used to actually have to pay money to paint cars. The Nitro animation, which was the little animation that pops up behind your car when you use a Nitro. This also wasn't released till January 30th, 2012, so I guess if somebody else used a Nitro, you had no idea. Seasons weren't a thing yet until September 22nd, 2016. King of the Race cars were recently removed, but back in the day, they didn't exist up until a person actually hit that race milestone. So there was a time where the highest King of the Race car you could get was for 5,000 races. And finally, the Wampus didn't exist until January 10th, 2014. Finally, let's talk about Nitro Type official merchandise. That's right, Nitro Type did release merch in a bonfire store. You can buy hoodies and t-shirts with the Nitro Type logo on them, or you can opt for shirts with some of the stickers from the site on them. I've never bought one, nor do I know anyone who has, but it existed, and it still actually does exist. I'll link in the description if anyone is interested in seeing the site. And that concludes today's video. If you enjoyed, let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. If you can think of any other old features that many people don't know about, let me know in the comments. If I get enough suggestions, maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one.